76% of all the area cleared in Queensland, hundreds of thousands of hectares, is mapped by the Commonwealth Government as habitat for threatened species. They're not just common, goannas and wallabies, but for threatened species. Mapped habitat for threatened species. Mapped habitat for threatened ecological communities, of which...
Has any development ever stopped because of these things?
That's right. That's a...
Council ever come in and stop it?
Right. Well...
There's wildlife, sacred sites, waterings, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't care, they just go through, just plough everything down, that's why.
Greedy developers.
That's right, yeah. And the Commonwealth is not fulfilling its duty. So we've discovered that all this clearing's happening, that the people doing it, they're not even bothering to seek approval, right? So 78% of it is on threatened species habitat. Probably, as you say, also cultural heritage issues that are just ignored. And they're not even bothering to seek approval. And that's what disturbs me. So, situations where they're not even bothering to even try and get approval are just rampant in the state. And the worst thing is, the Commonwealth just lets that happen. The Commonwealth is not there. And so the Commonwealth also need the citizens to tell them, look at this, why aren't you doing something about this, right? The council, the state government, the Commonwealth government, they all have to hear from us to say, why aren't you doing something about this, right? And so in a way, yeah, they'll sit there and do nothing unless we get up and tell them that we are concerned about this, that we believe you're not doing your duty. Thank you.
Jim, another thing, I live in Brassel now. As you've seen, you've got Emerald Hill, both sides have been developed. They're now talking about putting another Woolworths up in Brassel area somewhere. So we're going to see another service station. The logic, I cannot see the council logic on this, because how many service stations and shopping centres do we need? Great, it's going to create employment, but it's spreading the profit very, very thin. It's going to create unemployment. We're going to give people hope that they've got a job. Then what happens when these businesses associated with this go belly up? The infrastructure they're putting in is not the infrastructure we need. We need public transport. We need the needs of people. How many people here struggle to get buses around here late at night? How many hands can go up here? Yeah, it's a comical joke. You've got people that work shift work that don't drive. They choose not to drive. They might not be able to afford it. But buses, do we see council lobbying Queensland government to improve the bus service out here? Brassel's an example. You've got two bus runs. One runs every 15 minutes. One runs every half hour to the hour. But neither two meet at the same spot for people. They've got to get off one to get on the other, or walk 2 or 3 kilometres to the shops to get on the bus. Isn't that what council's supposed to do? I was brought up to believe council are supposed to support the infrastructure of the ratepayers. Am I right on that?
Yeah, right. Small business too.
Parking.
Ipswich Hospital parking is another one.
Big business, but not small business.
To go with that, and with the bus runs, you've got, say, the 500 and the 502 or 501. They do the exact same route, but they come within 10 or 15 minutes of each other. Why don't they space them out properly so everybody can have a proper bus route, not just have them all at once, don't link up with any trains? And why have big, huge buses that are empty? Just have smaller, half-size buses. They cost less to run, and you build them up, and you'll be able to have them more often.
Good point, Jim. Look, folks, we're going to call it to a close shortly. I've just had word that Dr. Murray can't make it. He's had car problems, and he's been trying to get his car going. But anyway, what we will do is we will invite him to one of our Ipswich Ratepayers and Residents Association meetings. Yep. And we'll get him to speak there. Look, it's well worth listening to Cameron. He has done a fantastic job of investigating corruption in Queensland and in Ipswich in particular, in relation to some of the big developers and the council here. Very knowledgeable guy, very good to listen to. Just one more thing before, Jim's going to have a quick talk in a minute. But one other thing that I probably should mention to you all, and it does relate to everything that we've spoken about here. We've got a couple of the signs up in relation to the council-approved dumps in the area. So we've got various types of waste dumps that accept all sorts of regulated waste, toxic waste, asbestos, all very close to residential areas around Ipswich. And again, something completely unacceptable, should never have been allowed to happen, but clearly and more evidence of collusion and unhealthy relationships between the council and, in this case, the waste management companies. Four Corners have done some fairly extensive work around Ipswich over the last few weeks. We've done some work with them and some other groups, and that Four Corners show goes to air this Monday night coming. Okay, so I do recommend that you all try and make the time, and the story will mainly centre around the waste dumps in Ipswich and the waste industry in general. So I really do urge you to make the time and watch that. It will open your eyes, and it will again prove that this council have not had the ratepayers and residents of Ipswich first. That in fact they've been looking after not just developers but also these waste management companies. Okay.
G'day, Jim Prentice here. You might know me as someone who's been trying to make people aware of the amount of diesel and coal dust pollution on the Ipswich station, which is actually at levels which would be unacceptable to people who have any sorts of sensitivities, and many of them will be going up to the hospital, or their kids that breathe twice as fast. Those issues need to be developed, and we're working on them. But in the process, I worked on the North Bundamba development by Walkers, proposed development, and we put in a submission to council, which was from which the response was absolutely zero. I spoke in detail to the previous mayor, and I got a very nice set of pencils, and that's about all. What is important about this crammed development, and our submission was quite elaborate about this, this crammed housing, and our submission was quite elaborate, was first of all, if you cram houses up close together, everyone's got to have air conditioning. There's no ventilation, there's no cross breezes, and there is no shade because you don't have trees in the house, so that you already create a bigger environmental footprint by having a smaller land size. The second thing is an obscure thing, but it's actually extremely well written up in the literature. If you go to Beyond Blue, which we all know is a mental health organisation that is well known throughout and referred to in the media constantly, and look up the relationship between mental health and the environment, you see there is a strong correlation between people's sense of well-being and their attachment to the natural environment and the sense of it being around them. So there's two areas where we're really compromising the future on behalf of developers who want to make a quick buck. And really the list goes on. There's no thought in the drainage plans or anything like that they could be using water, they could be using drainage sites to develop butterfly or small bird sensitive areas, which are vitally important for preserving the range of birds that are available in the natural environment. All these things we raised with council, and really we got absolutely zero response. Not interested, not important, and really we don't want to know. The final thing we suggested, which is a business plan, which was to go down to where the Bremer crosses the Warrego, if you know it, and down there are areas that could potentially be ephemeral wetlands for bird life. They could be centres of employment, education, and interest for local people give kids something to do, which is a big problem in this town. But no, they weren't interested in that, even though it's a flooded land which has got no commercial future. They weren't interested in talking about that. Walkers were just totally contemptuous when we went and talked to them about the use of that particular property. Everywhere there's a sort of non-recognition of the problems that human beings face in housing themselves in Ipswich, getting work and feeling good. They just don't care. It's all about profits for the developers. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim. Why isn't somebody with vision like Jim on the council? Why don't we have people like that, or at least advising the council and being listened to, so that we can have a better Ipswich? We need people like Jim.
2 deep pockets, that's what they got.
Folks, we're just going to wind up now. Yeah.
The QT and the flood suspension for all the residents here that were involved.
Yeah, look, Ian has just let me know that the courts have suspended the inquiry into the class action into the 2011 floods. We don't know why yet. No. So we're winding up now. Just 2 quick more things. So again, a reminder: the next Ratepayer and Residents Association meeting, Sunday, August the 13th. Okay, put your name down on the sheets, and we will let you know what the venue is. And just one last request: if you so feel fit, is to if we could all gather in, maybe just for a quick photo for the various media people. Maybe they might want a photo of the group all together before we wind up. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming today. And as I said before, please do stay in touch. Please do keep the momentum going and keep the rage up, and keep letting us know if you see anything. Let us know and we'll look into it. Thank you.